what should I watch on YouTube? I'll watch some of my old videos. Why not?
So I finally did it. I sold my 35 1.4 G Master. For the last 2 years, I've been bouncing back and forth between my 35 G Master and the
Did I
35
make the right decision keeping the 35 1.8? I mean, I do love this lens. Love the way it feels, balances well with the camera, but I do miss the G Master. No, I don't need the G Master, but I could watch some videos just to reassure myself.
This is the Sony 35mm f1.4 G Master lens, and if I had to pick just one lens in this entire system, it might just be this one.
It's got a good point.
I actually got a chance to play with it, and I gotta say, it's perfect.
Yeah, it really is.
It's easily one of the sharpest 35mm lenses I've ever, which is nice.
Did really love the photos.
In most scenarios. All right, so where does that leave us? Well, this new lens from Sony is fantastic. It's easily one of the sharpest 35mm lenses I've ever seen.
Should I have sold
It
my
has stellar control
1.4 G
over
Master?
vibration and flare, a very pleasing bokeh.
Recently, I got to use the new Sony 28-70 f2 G Master lens, and I was so impressed by the image quality. It was super sharp wide open that it made me start to question whether I made the right decision selling my 35 1.4 G Master and keeping the 35mm 1.8. As a photographer, especially one who spends way too much time on YouTube watching videos about new lenses and cameras, it's very easy to suffer from GAS, gear acquisition syndrome. And it has only become worse since I got the attention of Sony, and now they send me the occasional new lens or camera to test out for a couple weeks. Now, I've always taken pride in the fact that I don't care about having the best of the best, whether that's lenses or cameras. Otherwise, all of these lenses that I use on a regular basis would be their more expensive G Master counterparts. Which leads us to this lens, the 35mm 1.8, which Sony released a couple years before the G Master. Now, I actually owned the G Master before I owned this lens, and there was nothing wrong with the G Master because, in all honesty, that lens is pretty much perfect. It was incredibly sharp wide open at f1.4, it has an aperture ring, which this lens does not, it had great colors and contrast, and it even has a little bit of that 3D pop that everyone loves. The only problem was, it was slightly too large and a little front heavy on the Sony a7C. Even then, it wasn't too bad. I just wanted something a little bit smaller that didn't compromise too much on the fast aperture, so the low light performance and the bokeh. I landed on the 35mm 1.8 because it's pretty much exactly what I was looking for, minus the lack of an aperture ring, but I can live without that. Now, I did own both for a while, and I ended up sticking with the 35mm 1.8, mainly because of the size. I ended up using it a lot more often, and the smaller size just made me want to carry my camera with me more often. So I sold the G Master, and I continued using this lens despite its flaws. It's pretty sharp wide open, but it's definitely not as sharp as the G Master, and this lens does suffer from pretty bad chromatic aberration. It's definitely annoying, but it's easily fixable in Lightroom, so I try not to hold it against this lens too much. But recently I've had really bad gas, and I've started to question whether I made the right decision, telling myself that maybe the size really wasn't that big of a deal after all, and it was worth it for the image quality. I put the 20-70 f4G lens on my Sony a7CR and played around with it and came to the conclusion that the size of the G Master is perfectly fine and I could easily make it work.
This lens is pretty much the same size as the G Master. Feels good. What was I thinking?
And that is where I fell even deeper into the gas rabbit hole. Now, the G Master would not fit in my camera bag with my other lenses that I regularly use, the 24mm and the 50mm. But then the light bulb in my head turned on and I thought, oh, I could just get the new Sony 24-50 G lens. Sony sent it to me and I've already used it for a little while, and in the video I made about that lens, I even mentioned that I could see myself replacing my 24mm and my 50mm primes with that lens, and use the 35 1.4 G Master as my primary lens and have the 24-50 as my backup zoom lens. So I went from potentially spending $1,400 on the 35 1.4 G Master to now spending an additional $1,100 on the 24-50 because I needed to go with the 35 1.4, bringing me to a total of $2,500. Just because I had bad gas. Gear acquisition syndrome. But I hope you guys are starting to see where the problem is. Gas, while it can be a funny name, it can actually be a serious problem. Common sense would tell you that yes, while $2,500 is a lot of money, you can cut a lot of that cost down by selling off your old lenses. Now, I thought about that, but I love all of these lenses too much to ever sell them. Like, what if I ever just want to throw on one of these compact primes and go out and shoot for the day? The 24-50 is small, but it's definitely not that small. So I could not part with any of these lenses. Now, luckily, I did not make any rash decisions, and eventually common sense did kick in, and I realized, what is the point of putting myself through all of this mental turmoil when I've already owned or used these lenses in the past, and I ultimately ended up sticking with the lenses that I currently own now. Who's to say I won't eventually make that decision again in the future? Of course, it would be nice to have the 35 1.4 G Master again one day, and who knows, maybe I will buy it again one day, but I definitely don't need the 24-50. Chances are the cycle would just keep repeating itself. But for now, I've said all of this to say, no, I do not regret selling my 35 1.4 G Master because I'm still more than happy with the 35mm 1.8. I just wanted to share this story with you guys because I'm sure there are plenty of you guys out there who can relate to this and what I went through. So I wanted to be able to use it as an example and send a message to share with you guys just in case you find yourself falling into a similar trap in the future. And it's funny because I kind of feel like I'm a part of the problem because I am a photographer who makes YouTube videos about camera gear. But no matter the camera or the lens, there is one thing I always try to convey in my videos, and it's that you don't need the best of the best to create work that you are proud of. Now, of course, I'm sure there's some scenario out there where you may prefer to use something like the 50mm 1.2 G Master over the 50mm 2.5 G lens. But regardless of what you have, you can always find a way to make it work and end up with a result that you are happy with. The same thing goes with a kit lens versus a 24-70 2.8. It's always better to just use what you have rather than putting off that passion project of yours just because you don't have the right camera or lens. Because sometimes what's best for you isn't always what is the best of the best. So thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe to help support the channel. And I hope I could inspire you guys to get out and take more photos. Go out and shoot.